Howdy folks, this is Brahma Ancient Devlog, and now I'm looking around Doom levels which were loaded into the engine, and there's something strange going on here because you can see everything from every angle, including the items, the props, and the enemies can be seen from above and from any angle. But there still remain sprites, as you can see. They're not models, but you may wonder if there's some crazy artist who drawn everything by hand from every possible angle. But in fact, this is Voxel Doom mod by Cheello, and what you're seeing is voxel objects cast into sprites by the engine. Note that this system was meant for imposter sprites which are placed in the distance, so perspective is not of a concern, but this can be used for anything. So this is how it looks for ordinary sprites if you're standing next to one, and there's some perspective distortion going on. And the closer you get, the more cartoonish it becomes, because there's a negative perspective for the flat surfaces, because the sprite becomes, it remains vertical even it displays horizontal surface. And this kind of things happen to everything. There's vertical placement of sprites may be still a bit off, because this is our early prototype. It's rotated about vertical axis so you can see how it works. Basically it caches drawn sprites and puts substitutes everything by demand. So let's warp through every level and see what's interesting can be seen here. Well, first of all, let's compare it to a conventional cube mode. Cubes mode is how it's called. Doom box high quality. This is high quality mode that draws everything with cubes. This is how it looks in Doom ports when running this mod. When using hardware acceleration, because hardware acceleration turns that it converts every model into a mesh, and meshes are made of cubes like this. But this is not a mesh, this is rendered as cubes in high quality mode of Brahma engine rasterizer. And we switch to the faster orthographic mode, and well, it's right, box fast, it will look like this. So that's totally different from the up close, but there's a little difference if you are standing far away, because you can see that you can't tell if it's a sprite. Is it a sprite or a actual 3D model when the sprite is located far away? So basically how it works, it does pixel aspect ratio adjustment, so the barrel remains the same width, but the pixel dimensions vary, as you can see if you see an object from this direction, 45 degrees, its pixels become squashed, stretched, and this helps preserve the sharpness. So this technique may seem simple, but there's a twist to it to make it look good. Also, the bottom edge shouldn't be clipped by the floor. So let's sink it into the ground and see how it's clipped by the floor. This is there's some bias to make it the portion that actually below the floor, but it doesn't get clipped by the floor, so this should be implemented in a renderer to make these sprites look properly and don't glitch into the ground when you see them from above, for example. So you may see that these things in original Doom levels are ignorant to the angles, so they are not turned the right side, especially the pickups. So this is what's going on everywhere. Everything is placed like that. But we can make it this technique work with reflections well, and you can see that it doesn't even affect the frame rates much. So you can do a lot of reflections using voxel enemies, full 3D voxel enemies that appear like sprites and retain the old school look of the game. It can be spruced up with something like that. There are HDR reflections which have a Fresnel valve. This is mimics real flat surfaces which are glossy or wet. So this is a pretty useful effect. Let's see what we have. Well, the pickups are drawn with well, there was some invisibility, and that is where no, not here. Okay. Yes, you can fly outside the map and see it from the outside. That is very useful for editing, I guess. And overview everything that is present in the map. That was something I wanted to show you. Here it is. So everything is basically let's see how close the enemies look to the original sprites when using this technique. Let's return to the console, launch the editor, open game resources, and here all the sprites, all the sounds, all the maps go in sequence. Here goes the cache the actual cache that stores everything that was drawn. There are thousands of sprites which were drawn from every angle, which were on demand, so you can see if the engine sees a sprite for a new angle, it becomes renders, it stores it in the cache, including the LUTs. Let's find if there is a trooper or shotgun guy, maybe a shotgun guy in its default position, and they're named according to their how they should be named according to their sprite and view angle. So let's look for suppose slot suppose A1 with the vox prefix is 0 degrees. Okay, so this slot, let's place it somewhere next to the original sprite. 695, it's near the end of the cache. Here it is. Let's copy it to the beginning of the cache where the temporary sprites are placed before they get clipped into the final sprite. So you can see that they are truncated, and offsets are also automatically assigned, so everything should look in the correct place. This is how it works from the inside. So here we have a shotgun guy, and here should be the original shotgun guy sprite. That looks different, and it looks different because it has some perspective, and the cache sprites has no perspective altogether. But if we place it to match the position of the cache sprite, you can see that there is some subtle difference in lighting, but the overall shape is more or less correct, and there's might be some subtle difference, but there's in general, to see the legs select from above, we need another sprite that has a vertical view at say 11 degrees. We have one, it has this number, so let's look for the sprite. It should be here. This is a shotgun guy who stands. Okay, let's pick this one, A1, and compare it to the original. And now the right leg is kinda on the same level. You can see that the enemy is viewed from the above. So that's how it works. Let's fly through these levels. There's something interesting going on in the Inferno episode number 3. Well, here the pillars. Yes. No clip off. So when you're standing next to a pillar, it becomes flat. So its bottom and top parts are the same. The more may look a bit weird, but that's how the orthographic projection works. Well, here is another level. Maybe. Look at this. Do you like it? The glasses. The plasma gun. Here. Cheello has done amazing work, and now we can see in its full glory. Also, let's turn on the edit mode so we can try other sprites. Well, it's the rotation, and this is sprite version. You can see that it looks differently. This is a voxel, cached voxel version, and this is a sprite version. You can't easily tell which is a sprite or a voxel when using this caching system, so they are pretty close to the original sprites. But there are some issues with the muzzle flashes. You can't do a muzzle flash look good from every angle, so you have to sacrifice something. In a perfect world, this thing should be done with translucent voxels or effects done separately from the model, so the muzzle flash should look like this, and the shotgun guy should look from the behind. The good thing is that you can see dying animations from every angle as well, so witness everything, including all of the frames, all the dying enemies, how they look. And slaughtered enemies too. They are ripped to shreds. And these jeeps could be as well. This map is converted incorrectly because there's some issue going on with the map conversion. This map converter, this can be run. You can see the spikes going on when switching the levels. So the map conversion takes some time. This may be imperceptible, but there is the actual conversion going on from every level to the Brahma engine format that is vastly different from Doom engine format. It doesn't have BSP mechanism for hidden surface removal. Also, there are some bugs on the caching system. If you are playing for some time, you can see the random sprites popping out at the armor bonus for a reason. This might be some problem with the sprite generation. It doesn't update the sprite when needed. So it should be fixed later on. Well, let's see other stuff. Other stuff is Cyber Demon. It also dies with an animation. Now, can you tell if this is a model of a sprite or a sprite? See that this is a voxel drone, like it was a sprite. And this is also voxels. Demon. The demon is animations. Does it have a interesting because the shoot, when it shoots a ball, it has some muzzle in his mouth, and there's some parallax that couldn't be seen in the original game. Of hell have also interesting animation. Here it is. Also can be seen from everywhere in the Space Marine. Dying animations. Okay, another interesting level. One can even make a actual flame, candle flame in the edit mode by inserting a sprite and making it into something that resembles candle flame. Let's keep all the sprites, all the map data, everything is stored in the VHS format, so you can do anything with anything. That's a good thing about the engine. You can use sounds as textures or textures as sounds when there is something interesting going on. Change value to increase the brightness. Well, flare mechanisms also. Procedural, so there are flares that are put on every bright object, can make any object brighter, except the voxels, which don't produce any flares. Currently, hopefully they will in the future. Here's the BFG with its cool green muzzle we couldn't see previously. Look at that. Skull key. Okay. Here we are. Last level will be something. I like how the scenery is done. There's trees, kind of tree roots or something, rocks or something like that. It looks weird from close up, but if we change, what should we change anyway? Box high quality. It looks quite great, but the frame rate dips considerably because the renderer is not well optimized for this kind of voxel rendering, so it's high quality, but isn't that fast like the orthographic mode. Let's remove the fog so we can better see the scene. Level features some interesting HDR lighting might be a bit intense, but the conversion is tuned to make the levels look kinda magnificent, atmospheric. Something interesting. The cyber demon, it's right with the faster mode. Coal, and mouse. Fast. Compare it to the sprite version. And here's the voxel version. Here's the voxel. bigger the sprite becomes, more detailed the model, the more angles the engine allocates. So smaller sprites get fewer angles for more adaptive to keep the cache size reasonable. There was a place when enemies penetrate each other. It should be somewhere in this episode. Not here. Chainsaw in Doom. The original Doom. This is Doom 1. Other props. Those look kinda cartoonish, like you stand right next to it. And this is supposed to be enclosed into another sphere. When it's rendered as this. So, not this. Can't find the sprite. This is also voxel model. Should look great in VR, I guess, because in VR you should see billboards which have some parallax and volumetric. I can't tell if it's actually looks correct, because the amount of parallax will vary depending on the angle. Look at the sprite. So there was something going on. Not here. Okay, stay tuned for more videos about the engine, other things that I'll be working on. And there are lots of interesting stuff going on, so don't miss anything. Hopefully if you're interested in the development of this technology, I'll keep you informed if there was something more to showcase. So here it is, bye.